Hello friends! The range of power units is huge. Gasoline with a volume of 1.8 to 4 liters and power from 180 to 420 horsepower, but only two diesel ones, 2.0 and 3.0 TDI. In Europe, quite expectedly, the 3-liter turbo diesel has received the greatest distribution, but it created a lot of problems. The motor became famous for the failure of the timing chain drive, injection system, and defective manifolds. Malfunctions usually appeared after 150 to 200,000 kilometers. The 3.0 TDI timing chain, there are 3 chains in this generation of engine, and 4 were used before, tends to stretch after 150 to 200,000 kilometers. The same amount will have to be spent on eliminating oil leaks in the upper part of the oil pan and from under the timing cover. These are also typical diseases of a 3-liter diesel engine. In addition, all kinds of gaskets and seals dry up in the collapse of the block, and traces of leakage appear. Gasoline 3.0 TFSI also suffers from problems with the timing drive. Some owners of the A6 C7 3.0 TFSI of the first years of production, until 2013, after 150 to 200,000 kilometers faced a major overhaul due to oil burn caused by scuffing on the cylinder walls. It is worth noting that despite the 3.0 TFSI designation, there is no turbocharging here. A mechanical compressor is used to compress and blow air. The 2.8 FSI in the initial period of production received a lot of criticism due to high oil consumption. In this connection, its deliveries ceased in 2011 and resumed in 2012 after modernization. However, some owners note an increase in oil consumption after 100 to 150,000 kilometers, and some were even lucky enough to encounter scuffing on the cylinder walls. The 2-liter TFSI was upgraded after 2012, and cases of oil burns have become much less common. The 2-liter turbo engine with a return of 180 horsepower, after 100 to 150,000 kilometers, it forces you to resort to replacing the extended timing chain. A typical defect of the 2.0 TDI, EA189 was offered until 2014, is the failure of the EGR cooler. In gasoline engines, the cooling system pump often leaks. From time to time, the thermostat fails. Supports of power units are surrendered after 100 to 150,000 kilometers. That's all about the bad news about the engines, because the rest of the engines do not cause serious problems yet. If the purchased copy is still under warranty, then it is better not to resort to chip tuning. The manufacturer may refuse warranty repairs. The owners of the RS6 faced this, in which the intake manifold failed, a typical problem with 4-liter engines. The best reviews are collected by the 8-speed classic automatic ZF8 HP series. Only occasionally fails the torque converter, but it really happens very rarely. Transmission failures are more common in the RS6 and are closely related to driving style. Regular oil updates every 60,000 kilometers will help extend the life of the box, which, as usual, the manufacturer forgets to recommend. Other boxes inherited by the A6 garner less enthusiastic reviews. A heavily used Multitronic CVT can be a very expensive burden to repair. Usually suffers the so-called starter package. The 7-speed S-Tronic DL501 was mated to 3-liter engines, both petrol and diesel. Unfortunately, high torque does not have the best effect on an automated transmission. Driving style also has a significant effect. The typical weaknesses of the DL501 are well known: mechatronics, clutch unit, and dual mass flywheel. It is noteworthy that the DSG7 with the DL382 index, paired with weaker engines, does not bother with such malfunctions. The life of vulnerable components can be extended by regular oil changes. Even the manufacturer recommends doing this every 60,000 kilometers. There are usually no problems with the all-wheel drive system. Suspension parts are not extremely delicate. The elements of the rear axle are especially strong, the front axle will require the first work even before 150 to 200,000 kilometers. There are 4 aluminum arms for each front wheel, but they rarely wear out at the same time. Silent blocks can be replaced separately. Rear shock absorbers typically last more than 150,000 kilometers. The front shock absorbers fail much less frequently. Some copies have an adjustable air suspension. Air struts break infrequently. For example, when the owner forgets to block it to change wheels. The MMI has a special function for this. Fortunately, the racks can be restored. As the mechanics note, this is not the most emergency element in the A6 C7. The front wheel bearings end at a distance of 100 to 200,000 kilometers. Rear bearings are also assembled but usually last longer. Despite the high manufacturability of the Audi A6 C7 has no problems with the electronics. Of course, this applies only to cars that were not involved in an accident and did not sink. Affected instances will require a significant investment, as Audi is crammed with sensors and controllers. You should be aware of the so-called component protection, i.e., each electronic unit has a stored VIN number of the vehicle to which it is intended. Thanks to this, it is possible to detect blocks with the VIN code of a previously stolen car. Among typical electrical problems, one can note the failure of the electric motor to open the fuel filler flap. The defect is inexpensive to fix, but very annoying. Fortunately, the manufacturer has provided a fallback option for opening the lid using a tape in the trunk. It is noteworthy that this problem affected most of the models from Ingolstadt. Difficulties also arise with updating navigation maps, as dealers ask for too much money. The update is not particularly cheap within the walls of unauthorized services. In some instances, swelling of paint is observed on the rear wheel arches, at the junction of the wing with the bumper. Many owners complain about fogging headlights and taillights. Sometimes the taillight LEDs start to work incorrectly or go out. After 150 to 200,000 kilometers, the stove motor may make noise. You will need to clean the impeller and replace 2 bearings. If you know of other model malfunctions, be sure to write about it.